They light the beam as you hear Mark Jones say, "Careful what you ask for, because you might just get it," as the Sacramento Kings have knocked off the defending champs to stake claim to California basketball. Whew. So there is a lot of discussion right now as this season and this play-in unfold, right? Of who wants who, what are these matchups? The Warriors want the Kings. You heard Windhorse the other day say that the Kings are a mark. All the Western Conference teams are hunting the Kings or trying to line up with this Kings team because they don't defend and they have no playoff experience. I don't know how we can sit here and act like anybody really knows who they want. You know, I mean, we'll go through the points, right? But that's been the part of this equation of all this parity in the Western Conference in particular this season, right? With any given night and these teams up and down, I can you call it? Do you want the Kings? I don't know, man. I hear that in my voice. Careful what you ask for. You might just get it, right? Do you want to tempt fate? Now, I went back and I looked at the two early games we had against Sacramento. There was huge point swings. If the Warriors and Kings do meet up here, that you may have the biggest point swings in playoff history in a given series. We hung like 79, 80 points on them in a half. They came all the way back, and that's just the pace and style of play of these two teams. And it's interesting because it may be the only team in the league where it doesn't benefit the Warriors to push the pace and play fast, right? They may outgun the Warriors playing that way with the young Fox, the young legs, and all that. And so what would be the issues, right? I think you talk about point of attack defenders, De'Aaron Fox. You've heard the numbers over and over again that he scores the most points in the fourth quarter, the most clutch points, right? There's some arbitrary ways of masking that stat, but he's clutch. He's big time. He's taken that step into superstardom. They've got all this firepower around him. Sabonis, this toolsy, big triple-double guy, physical, and they just have a mojo and a swagger. And, you know, for all the inexperience they have, how many times have you seen a team with not much experience, they play above their head? They don't know that they shouldn't win, right? Sometimes it's an advantage when you're young, you know, ignorance is bliss type of situation. Mike Brown, you know, he knows this Warriors system like the back of his hand, right? And so I'm not so sure. I say all that to say I'm not so sure we want the Kings in the first round. I look over at the Suns and they're limping to the finish. And I guess you'd say you don't want to see KD. You don't want to see the Suns clearly have on paper, right, the more talent and far more experience. So I understand that. But, you know, it's also a timing issue. And the Suns, they don't look like they're clicking right now. And you know, both teams present their own issues. But let's focus on Sacramento in this potential matchup. I want to thank y'all for joining my So Rare Fantasy Basketball League Athletic Alchemy. It's off to a good start, right? You know, some of you probably got off to a late start in last week's game. So get off to an early start this week. I just set one of my team's lineups here. You can see Luka, my MVP. Troy Brown Jr., I like him. You know, the key is with the role players, you want high-value role players, but some of them platoon positions, right, where they don't always have a consistent role. And so you want a role player at a high value, but he has consistent minutes to give you those numbers. The other nice play is like a young guy. For instance, the Warriors playing the Spurs tonight. Devin Vassell is a card I'm on the hunt for. Liked him out of Florida State. Prolific three-point shooter, fills the stat sheet, and more importantly, gets a lot of opportunity. So if you haven't already, join my So Rare NBA Fantasy League. The link is in the description. Starting with Sabonis, you know, as strong as Draymond is and as good as he is at guarding bigger guys, right? We've seen him bully and punk bigs for the last 10 years. Sabonis is one of the few bigs that I've seen put him in the basket. He's just got that, like his father, like that wide base. He's just naturally super strong to go along with how physical and aggressive he is. And you saw it in the first matchups early in the season where they'd like to get a switch. You know, you can't switch him, basically. Clay got caught on him a bunch, but I say all that to say if we have to send help and double Sabonis, you know how good of a passer he is, right? And so that could become an issue, opening up their three-point shooters. How do you guard Sabonis one-on-one, and can you do that for an entire series? Herder with those handoffs on the move, right? And then obviously Monk and Fox, one of those guys in the game at all times as a guy that can penetrate and break your defense, right? So you see their recipe of why they're so good offensively, and you surround them with shooters. How do the Warriors guard Sabonis straight up? Can they do that? If you want to simplify things, you could say, well, if you make Fox inefficient throughout the series, you're going to win the series, right? He is the head of the snake. He is their motor. And you look at who's healthy now and how this is shaped out. You can throw GP2 at him. You can throw Kuminga at him. You can throw DiVincenzo, who maybe a little bit of a revenge factor if this series does happen. Remember, he had that short stint in Sacramento where he felt like he was getting kind of blackballed by the Kings and what they were trying to do. But those are three guys, different looks that you could give Fox throughout a series. You know, how many fouls? 18 fouls. You don't want them to foul out, right? But that would be the argument. You've got three guys to try to slow down Fox. Monk, electric guy, hot, cold. But I think it starts with guarding Sabonis one-on-one. If the Warriors have to help on Sabonis, I think it could be a problem in a long series. Now, the other part of that approach has to be attacking Sabonis on the other end. We've seen the Warriors hesitant to be too reliant on simple pick and roll offense, right? They'll go to it when they have to, but it's almost like Kerr in the team, their hand has to be forced before they go to it. They want to run the motion traditional offense. Problem being, I know Sacramento, not a great defensive team. Mike Brown's going to have them ready for all those actions, right? The split actions and all that stuff, and we'll see how well they defend it. But it also allows them to hide Sabonis in those situations. Get out high, pick and roll, put Sabonis above the three-point line, and make him work defensively. I think he's second or third in the league in fouls. So get him in foul trouble, make him work. And again, like I said earlier, it's a rare matchup where it may benefit the Warriors to slow it down and play a half-court high pick and roll game with their experience and with all the Kings' firepower, slowing them down. Now, the other argument against the Kings, I think they're second in the league in drawing fouls behind the Lakers. Someone put out a stat about, I think it was Laker fans complaining they don't get calls, and someone was like, well, you get more fouls than anybody in the league, fam, by a country mile. And the Kings were second on that list. Do they have that advantage come playoff time? Right? As the physicality ramps up and the refs tend to swallow the whistles, that's going to be advantage Warriors with their experience, and they know what level of physicality they can get away with in the playoffs. The only player I think it could help Sabonis, right? Because he's naturally physical. And then off night, Davion Mitchell. How much does Mike Brown rely upon him? Because this is a favorable matchup when you talk about Jordan Poole. We don't expect Poole to be a lockdown guy, so he's got to score, right? He's probably looking at Kevin Herter and Malik Monk like a snack, and so how much does Davion Mitchell play? He's one guy where his game may translate better to the playoffs where he's allowed to be more physical. But you could counter that and say, listen, the Warriors, the worst, I don't know where we finished, right? But we foul worse than anybody. We've had a fouling problem all season long, and so why would you think that that's going to go away against a team that's so good at drawing fouls, right? Fox, I don't really want to put this out into the universe, but the reality is he could shoot double-digit free throws an entire series, right? And that could be a problem, putting the Warriors in foul trouble. The other thing that I like matchup-wise is when you look at Kuminga, and I know he shot the three better of late. He's really done, especially in the corners, it looks a lot better. But when you look at matchups where he does struggle, it's usually a team with a legit rim protector that makes him second guess kind of getting all the way to the rim. The Kings don't have that, right? They don't have anybody that's going to discourage him from detonating at the rim. And I think Kuminga could have a big series and a big impact, as well as drawing fouls and balancing out that foul number at the line. But ultimately, I guess I've kind of talked myself into the Kings probably being a favorable matchup. And I think what's really pushed it over the top for me as opposed to a Phoenix matchup is, what have you heard all year long about this Warriors team? Can't win on the road. Can't win on the road, right? Well, Sacramento, you heard it first from Draymond, right? Not really much travel. And then you consider, look, I know Kings fans are legit, man. They always have been. But how are you going to keep the Warrior fans out of that arena? Is the owner going to just buy out half the arena and make sure it goes to Kings fans? Because it feels like it'd be kind of like when the Niners go play the Rams in Los Angeles, right? It might be like a 50-50, 60-40 crowd. And so that element of the Warriors not winning on the road, I don't know if you can, right? It's going to kind of be neutralized in this matchup possibly. And I think that's ultimately would make me feel pretty comfortable about this matchup. But at the same time, I can't call it. I can't sit here. Again, in years past, at this point in the season, you've looked at matchups and you're like, oh, I like that one. Don't want that one. It was much more clear cut of specific matchups that you would like for your team. In this wild, wild west this year, you don't know, man. You don't know. I don't know. But what is there? San Antonio tonight, trap game, got to win. They got to win out. They got to win out. It's not set in stone. It could be Memphis. It could be Phoenix. I'll tell you what, as far as travel and road stuff, I know that this would be the hardest, but I wouldn't mind that Memphis first round matchup. You know, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Ja's situation, that as feisty as Memphis is, and you know it's going to be physical and it's going to be a war, Memphis might be that matchup. Here I am confusing the situation, but I know some of you are asking my thoughts as this situation approaches and unfolds, and so I thought I'd deliver how I'm feeling right now. Put it in the comments who you prefer at this moment in the first round for the Warriors. Also, man, join my league. So rare. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.